Welcome, everyone. Today is another podcast with one of our guests from I Am Christina DiArcangelo. With Dr. Annabelle Manalo Morgan. I'm sorry, I always have to reference Manalo because that's how I know her before she got married. No offense to Gramps. I love Gramps, but come on. We're women. We're women in leadership roles, and we're proud of where we came from. Welcome, Annabelle.
Thank you, Christina. Always a pleasure to be involved with anything you're doing because I know that you have good in mind, and I just want to always be a part of helping you achieve all these fabulous goals you have. So thank you for having me. I love utilizing your platforms as an excuse to just catch up.
Yes. Isn't it? I mean, because we have a big party coming up, don't we?
Yes.
At the end of July. I'm so excited to come out to Nashville and hang out with the fam.
Yeah. Yes. So my husband, Gramps Morgan, is having an album release, and I couldn't not invite Christina and Christian, her son, who's basically, you guys are family to us. So yeah, come up to Nashville and we'll catch up in 100 ways. It'll be awesome.
We're so excited for it. Christian's talking about it every week now, doing a little countdown.
Oh my God.
Because he's excited to come back out because, the last time we saw you guys face to face was right as COVID was really genning up there in February.
That's right. That's right. February 2019.
Yes.
Is the last time I saw you guys. So it's nice to feel like, we can interact again.
That's right. And be like to have some sort of normalcy again, because there hasn't been. So
not at all.
Just to transition into that a little bit, because I want everybody that's going to be listening and viewing our show today to understand your background and what you're doing and where you've come from. And I feel like it makes sense. And just like I've done in other events that we've spoken at, when we were on Clubhouse during the month of May for mental health awareness, who joins me with our board members at Affinity Patient Advocacy to talk about mental health and CBD and just like holistically how to help with mental health. Because of our backgrounds, we're luckily able to help people with some of these struggles. Right. So I would really love for you to introduce yourself properly to the guests and so that they understand everything about you. And then let's talk about what you want to talk about with respect to what's on the radar right now that's really important that you want to share with everyone.
Sure. So again, I'm just thankful to, have this platform to be able to share my story and my background with new people, because, as much as we're out there, there's billions of people that have not heard, right? So I'm a cell and developmental biologist. I was at Georgetown University studying neuroscience first, and then why I'm here in Nashville is because I finished up with my PhD at Vanderbilt University. And staying here just made sense because my husband's a musician, and Nashville's incredible, my favorite city in the United States. So that's why I'm here. I was on a large chemotherapy grant. I worked mostly in Cardiology at Vanderbilt, and I was pregnant, and I was in the lab with my third child, and his name is Macario. And, had him, everything was normal. We got sent home, and within 2 hours of being home, he started foaming at the mouth and, twitching. So he was having seizures as a newborn baby. So rushed back down to the hospital, and life changed. Macario was having about 200 seizures a day. He, of course, he had a stroke, and doctors were, my colleagues, trying to find every regimen that could slow down these seizures, stop these seizures. We really didn't know why or how this all started, but at that moment, all we cared about was making him better, right? Mm-hmm. So we went through this for 5 weeks. And after 5 weeks and not having any answers, they did a surgery where they removed 38% of Macario's brain. So pretty much all of his left brain is gone. So, we were told that he probably would never use the right side of his body, missing as much left brain as he is. He'd eat out of a G tube or a feeding tube, probably till the age of 5, if not longer. That he would not be normal, right? Probably very developmentally challenged. And so you just take what, God gives you, and went to therapy every day with this 2-month-old baby and just moving him around. When he turned 6 months old, he was no different than a newborn baby. And I feel like as a mother, the pain had settled in, and I started thinking more about my training as a scientist, right? Being that I started in developmental neurology, so understanding the brain and the developing brain. And then I finished in cell and development biology, and really understanding neuroplasticity and how we can compensate for losses, and how cells need to signal to one another for things to occur. And I really started thinking about that. And I started just researching and reading and looking, and found cannabis. And cannabis is not something, I mean, Christina, it's not something that comes across our clinical desk, right?
And one thing I want for the viewers to understand too is, could you please, sorry to interrupt, but I want to make a point because this is important.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So not only is this taboo, we still have stigma even now, but can you please tell our listeners when this process started? And please remember, for everybody listening, that Annabelle was in Nashville, Tennessee. Okay. So this is really important for people to understand this.
Where cannabis is still illegal today.
Exactly. That's why. What year was that, Annabelle? If you could tell everyone.
2016. So way before CBD became the trend that it is today. And obviously not accepted as a treatment in our state of Tennessee, and still very cloudy right now. So finding cannabis was definitely an online thing, right? And just started reading the research. And although the research was very slim, I was desperate, and I started piecing together just molecular data and thought to myself, what do I have to lose? And so, long story short, I created a formula for my son utilizing cannabidiol, or CBD molecule, and didn't ask the doctors, asked my husband, and went cold turkey off all his medications. Still went to Walgreens though and picked them up as refills, but I never gave them to him. And I started putting this through his G tube, this formula that I made. And within a few days, I started seeing results. I started seeing his eyes moving around, which we weren't seeing before. He was crawling in 2 months. He was walking by 14 months old. And he's 5 years old today, and he's starting kindergarten in August. And Christina will tell you, Macario's, the light. He's a little lion. He talks, walks, plays. You would never know he's missing 40% of his brain. So because of that story, I see you're about to cry, which is
I'm sorry.
I think I've told this story 100 times in her presence, but it's real, and if you meet him, it's, it would leave you boggled as well,
Well, what got me was when you referred to him as a lion, because that's what I refer to him as his auntie. And for our viewers out there, before we got on, Annabelle and I were talking about how we love to give presents to our families, to exchange, because we really love to give things to those we love.
Yeah.
And for Macario's birthday this year, Christian and I, through one of my artist friends, were able to give him this really nice, soft, fuzzy type blanket that has a beautiful, it's a Christian, actually, not Christianity type lion. And because in my mind, I feel, and when I met Macario and spent time with him, it was even more clear. He's a lion. And that's why, besides your work with him and everyone else, that's why he's still here today. And that's really important for people to understand. And so that's why I get emotional, because, out of all of Annabelle's kids, they're all wonderful kids, but with him, there's just something about him that
Something about him, and it's most definitely greater than cannabis, but I believe cannabis gave him the opportunity to bring that lion out.
Yes.
He's courageous, he's tough, he's really beat every odd that has been put on him. And so because of that, it is in my mission to see more stories like this happen. I know in the cannabis space, we hear a lot of anecdotal stories, probably thousands at this point. But it'll never, I think where Christina and I connect is that it'll never become accepted amongst our colleagues that we've, had over the years in academia and big pharma. It'll never be accepted until we can produce clinical and scientific data. And so I know that my son's story isn't enough. It's enough for me, but it's not enough to create a monster out of the cannabis that we have so that it can help more people and that it can become more widely accepted. So, after sharing that story and getting some good press around it, which was obviously all unplanned, I just started feeling out the industry and seeing what science was being done all over the world. I was chief scientific officer for Tikkun Olam for a year, and just decided that I wanted to do more than what the platform they had to offer. They were more focused on their products, as they should be. But let's put the clinical studies behind this plant that we love. Let's create products that have the consistency that we expect in medicine, and let's help people in a way where they can feel confident in the quality and the transparency of something that they're using. And so now I've just recently signed on as lead scientific advisor to Flora Growth, who just went public on the NASDAQ. And
congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And it's been a journey for me to really want to tie myself to any company, because I've just been consulting for a lot of governments and a lot of groups that really care about the medical side of cannabis. I'm not against the recreational at all or the spiritual at all, but I want to be able to see kids in Macario's position get the opportunity to use cannabis, right? And we're still in a standstill of, well, where am I going to get that cannabis from? What cannabis do I buy? Do I have to hide this from my doctor, right? And so how do we get past that?
Even in the states where it's legal, right? Like Krish,
everywhere.
Krish has ADHD and he uses CBD. He was taking Messiah, your brand, and then what happened was I couldn't, even though Pennsylvania is a state and Annabelle's product, just for our viewers out there, does not contain THC. It's not, there is no THC in there. I could not get it into the school district. We're in Pennsylvania with a program, and it's a hemp-based product under the Farm Bill, which makes it federally legal for my child or any patient to take this. And I couldn't get it in. So what I ended up doing was I made a transdermal patch. And so he wears he wears two of them because there's two different things he wears every day. But as a parent and a clinical researcher, it was really hard for me to get this in my head that these guys wouldn't let me come and dose my son every day. I would leave my office to go dose him because he needed consistent dosing. You know how dosing works. It lasts for so long, and you have to, when it's tincture, it's GI based, So that was the awesome thing about the patch. But parents, it's hard for parents to be able to navigate this, right, Annabelle?
Right.
I mean,
that's right. And that's the goal, right? That's the overarching goal. And that goal takes time. Science takes time. And, but, I can't sit here and have an honest conversation with government leaders, ministers of health, and academia without producing data. They hear my son's story and everyone's like, holy smokes, like, absolutely, right? But, how can we repeat these things so that these stories can become true in other people's lives. It's getting the clinical data. And so, that takes a lot of time. And I think that Flora has the same mindset and a big platform that someone like me and my company, Messiah, can utilize to run some clinical studies. I mean, they're growing acres in Colombia, and they're doing it in a standardized way, production in a standardized manner. And they're also shifting now into Miami, where they can provide something for us here in the United States. And they understand what they're doing is going to take a lot more time and money than just making awesome products and putting in a dispensary.
Right.
But they're in it for the long game, and they're in it to make an impact. So those things aligned. And so I found it important to jump on board with them.
That is so awesome. And as always, I'm always proud of everything you do.
Thank you.
But you didn't mention to everybody your TEDx.
I know.
Are a TEDx speaker, which is phenomenal because, you've done so much in your career, both in traditional and then, I always split us because we're traditional and then we're also medical cannabis CBD researchers.
Yeah.
You've done so much, but you're a mom and you work full time and you're an international speaker and you do charity work. I mean, there's so many things, but you also did a TEDx talk, and I got to be part of all that, which was awesome.
I got to do a TEDx talk here in Nashville, and actually, breaking news, Christina, that you're not going to be happy about.
Oh no!
Is that we have the TEDx talk and we have it to use, and Christina came and asked me an incredible question afterwards. We did a Q&A, and since it was virtual, we had the opportunity to do a Q&A. Well, I was asking TED, the people at TED, how do I access it? Because I didn't see it online. And they came back and said that they're still deciding, but most likely they won't use it. Not just because it's cannabis, but because they just don't want to do anything that might step on the toes of the medical industry. And so they felt like I never pitched the product Messiah.
Never.
I never made like overarching claims.
No.
But they just felt like it was too much of advocating based on like the story, and that it may be stepping on the medical industry's toes. So that's an issue within itself, and it is an example of the struggles that we go through being advocates for cannabis in this industry, because I was very careful. I did a practice talk in front of all of them.
You had coaches
several times. Gave them my script to make sure I wasn't stepping on any lines or crossing any boundaries, and they all approved it. And then when it came time to publish it online, they're still thinking about it. So that's where it is right now. But I did it. I did the TED Talk. I was 7 months pregnant, and
somebody paid it off. That's what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, whatever it is, I did do a TED Talk, and I'll put that under my belt.
That's right. And it was amazing. Your TED Talk was amazing. And I don't feel like
I didn't want to do it pregnant on top of it.
I know. I know.
I was 7 months pregnant during COVID, had to do a virtual TED Talk.
It was, yeah.
So it's it's disappointing to me still, but it is what it is. And like I said, just an example of what we're going through in this industry. I'm actually publishing a book. I'm trying to get a fixed date, but I'm publishing a book with Forbes Books, and kind of going through the same thing, having to be very choosy about what I put in the book, and ensuring that the things that I say are backed by science and or at least science that is in motion.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's difficult. It's difficult to come from, our world, Christina, where everything's just a reach, a stone's throw away, where you have access to everything and things are done in a patterned way, in a traditional manner. Then you go to the cannabis industry. First, you don't know who you can trust, and then because everyone's just trying to take shortcuts, and then secondly, there's a lot of no's because there's still a lot of people that just are not buying the power and how amazing cannabis is. And so,
trust me, sis, it took me 7 months to get an IRB approval on an observational study, which I'm proud to say yesterday I finally achieved.
wow.
You know the one I had been working on it's 7 months from a central IRB that's a traditional, and I know that because I've been working for so long, I know all the people in this IRB. Like, I've worked with them over the years, so they know I'm not doing anything under the radar. Like, everything was legitimate. I had investigator brochures, a SAP, statistical analysis plate. I had all kinds of things for this little observational study, and it took 7 months to move that boulder up the hill. But now we're at the top of the hill. Just yesterday.
Wow! Congratulations!
Because,
again, just for the listeners, this is. I don't care if you see me on, your favorite talk show or, all that fluffy stuff. But the reason why I will always be tied to Christina and her platforms and the things that she's doing is because she is just fierce and wants to do it the right way, no shortcuts, because she understands the meaning, how meaningful that credibility is. I would have gave up on that IRB after the first month. They're like, I guess we're not going to get it. But, Christina can now say that she was able to do that essentially single-handedly. I mean, like, it's one thing for a university to get one, right?
Right.
Right? But you're talking about somebody standalone that has her own company that's just trying to get clinical research done. So, wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
Huge deal that
Thank you.
many won't understand, but
it popped in my mind when we were talking about the struggles we have, everybody out there, when we first got in here, people were not happy to have people like us in this space, right? Because now we're bringing validity. Annabelle is formulating and generating formulations and products that have been backed by preclinical science, right? And then jumping into the clinical space along with me, because I'm the clinical weirdo. Together, we're an awesome force because we have all this stuff that we've been doing over the years, but then people didn't want to, engage us because they didn't want to do things the right way.
No, because what's the return on something that takes so long?
It's a lot of money.
And it costs a lot of money. And so I get it, but at the same time, we have, stayed true to wanting to make the right kind of impact in this space. And I'm just happy that it finally feels like that is going to be honored.
Right.
I see all the things going on with you. Obviously, every time we catch up, it's elevating. And I'm finally going to get a clinical study done in the
so
UK.
Excited.
And so, an incredible study, not just, hey, neighbor, take this and let me know what you think, right?
Yeah.
But
no.
A credible study with unbiased, incredible scientists that when I had to sit down with them and first introduce this idea, these are, 70-year-old British scientists that have done a lot of incredible work that are not fans of cannabis.
No.
And I've had to, essentially write my own review paper with references to give them something that would hopefully make them accept hey, let's just give it a chance. We're not going to hurt anybody.
Right.
What do we have to lose? Let's give it a chance. The whole world is waiting for such a study, right? That they can lean to and will be an example for how cannabis studies should be done moving
Absolutely.
forward. I'm really excited about it. And
It's
yeah,
amazing.
we're getting in the thick of it now. And as you know, Christina, I mean, these things take time, and it's a headache, and it's going to cost a lot of money, but we can be happy that we're going to be doing a lot of good for the industry. So
That's absolutely right. So, as our viewers can probably tell, we could stay on for hours talking to one another, because this is almost like just a regular phone call for us, because this is how our friendship is that you guys see today. We're friends, but we also are business colleagues, and it's awesome to have that intertwined relationship, because we know in our hearts that we're always on each other's sides. And
oh,
in this space, it's very hard to find people like that.
that's
Um,
right. That's right.
so I want to thank you, Annabelle, for joining me today. You're so busy with
Of
everything that's going
course.
on, and you carved out time on a busy Friday afternoon to speak with me. Gramps' birthday was this week. I mean, he has his big party. You're doing things. You're going to the UK. So there's just a lot of stuff going on. So I'm always so grateful to have you, in my corner, and being one of my guests on my new podcast. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Christina, for everything you're doing, for being my friend, first and foremost, and for just providing this platform for, creating affinity patient advocacy. I mean, because we need you, the patients need you. They need direction. Doctors need direction. And it just feels good to have somebody to guide folks to when they ask me questions that are way out of my wheelhouse. So
Thank you.
it's a joy. I really see the light at the end of this long tunnel for us. And yeah, and we just continue to ride this train, sister.
That's right. That's right, my sister. So, with that, I'm going to end us on a high note, not because we've consumed, but because, I hope it's clear to everyone how passionate we are about what we're doing and about our friendship and our relationship, because it's also important for viewers to see women in leadership roles working together collaboratively, not competing. We're in it together. We're in the same boat together,
That's right.
essentially.
That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So
All right.
just,
Thank you, Christina.
and the last thing I always say is just remember, we are the same. I am Christina DiArcangelo. Thank you.